Welcome to the Alain Guillot podcast, a podcast about life, leadership, and money matters. Our guest today is Gianola. Gil is an author, teacher, speaker, and national known financial planner. And today we will speak about her latest book, Single Woman and Money: How to Live Well on Your Income, which she co-wrote with Margaret Price, an author, editor, and financial journalist. Jill and Margaret, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're
Okay,
happy to be here.
This I love talking about personal finance. I would like to know a little bit about your background. Jill, let's start with you. How is it that you became interested in this subject?
In the particular subject of single women
No,
and
just
money,
personal
just in
finance.
personal finance. Yes, actually, I started out life as an economist. And so numbers and money has always been kind of interesting to me. But in a previous job, I also became involved in setting up a 401k plan and helping employees work with their own finances. And I thought, wow, this is such a great combination of numbers and people. You know, it's not just sitting in a corner with a calculator. It really applies it to the real life situation. And wouldn't that be great if I could help people with that? And so I circled back and got my certified financial planner designation and opened my own firm.
And how come you became interested now in single woman? Of course, this is the segment of the population that I believe needs the most help. But anyways, you could have devoted yourself to doctors who will be maybe they don't need that much help, but somehow financial planners like to have doctors as clients.
Yes, not our firm. We actually prefer to work with people where we can really make a difference in their lives. And you're exactly right. Single women have long been neglected. They have certain financial difficulties. When you think about it, they are women, so they suffer the wage gap, the longer life, longevity that women have. And then they also are single. So everything they accumulate and all of their financial security is on their shoulders. And that's a very difficult position to be in. And I've noticed it with several of my clients. They struggle. It's very difficult to live in today, prepare for tomorrow, and think of all the different pieces of your financial life that you need to prepare for.
Okay, well, now let me ask Margaret. Margaret, can you tell us just something about you? How is it that you became interested in becoming a financial journalist? And you write for some of the publications that I love the most. So yeah, I'm just eager to know a little bit about your journey.
I started out actually in college working for the news. I went to Elmira College in Elmira, New York, and my sophomore roommate, at the time I was planning to be a social worker, but my roommate was working night side for the city newspaper in Elmira called the Elmira Star-Gazette. And she had decided at the end of sophomore year to leave and go to Syracuse Journalism School. So she suggested that I take her job. Well, the funny thing is, as I said, I wasn't planning a career in journalism, but I looked at my bank account and I signed right up. And so I worked part-time for 2 years at the Star-Gazette and decided I absolutely loved the journalism community, the people I worked with, the excitement and the passion they had for what they were doing and their deep interest in world affairs. So I decided, no, this is going to be my career. So after college, I was doing a general assignment reporting for a daily newspaper in Connecticut, but opportunities opened up in the business. And by this time, business writing was becoming much more popular than it had been. And opportunities opened up in business writing. So I sort of evolved into that. And doing a lot of that put me, first of all, in touch with the idea that women were not factoring into, first of all, into that community at all. And it was seemingly a man's world. You had to interview, when you wanted to interview people about financial matters, it was really, you were always talking to men. And then I began to see that some of my personal friends were single, and it was a more difficult road for them. They compared with married couples with two incomes. They were sort of behind. They were behind. There were so many things that they were up against, such as they had to be much more careful about their budget. There were things that they felt that they couldn't have that married couples had. It wasn't that they were angry or bitter that necessarily, but that it was just the inequity seemed to strike me. And the more I noticed it, the more I decided that something had to be said. And that's how I came up with the idea of this book that Jill is also very deeply concerned about. And so we paired up and decided that we would go forward with this message of not only what individual women can do to help themselves, but also what society needs to do to balance the scales so that there isn't a large segment of society that is left behind. So that is sort of the rationale with our book.
Okay, well, you touched a few subjects that I would like to go deeper into, and this for both of you. So, Margaret, at a given moment, you wanted to become a social worker. And one of the main reasons for an income gap, yes, I know, women get paid less for the same amount of work that a man does. I don't know what is it, 80 cents on the dollar or whatever, but also there is a crowding of the female sector into fields that pay less, like social worker versus, I don't know, let's say coding. A guy will feel for some reason interested in, oh, how can I program a computer, which happen to pay $100,000 per year? Well, somehow women, because they are more in tune with society and caring and loving, they feel attracted towards careers such as social work, which pay almost nothing. So this is a default of society as a whole, not to value the contribution of women in these fields that are so necessary for our well-being. But at the same time, it's also a matter of choice. Why a female, a young woman in her 20s or 18 or whatever would choose this career versus coding or engineering or who knows, banking?
I'm going to comment and then I hope Jill will chime in. I'm just going to say in my case, but this applies widely, women have from early years been historically herded into certain professions and in school taught different things. I'm going to give you a minor example. When I was in, I think it was 6th grade, the teacher told us to put a list of jobs that men could get into and women could get into. And the men had all the traditional jobs, including President of the United States. Well, what did the women put down, what the girls put down? They put down First Lady. And it just was so graphically illustrating the mentality of the time and what people thought that what they were supposed to do to fill the appropriate roles at the time. And that has led to and continues to lead to women today not understanding basic finance and in many cases being almost afraid of it. They think it's a foreign language they haven't learned, which I find many highly educated women don't even know what a mutual fund is. And so that it illustrates the social herding that has transpired traditionally, and in some cases continues, although I think the situation is improving these days. Jill, what do you think?
Yes. Yes, I agree. And I think there's been such a tendency for the woman to assume a helper role or a secondary role. So as you said, not the president, but the first lady, not the doctor, but the nurse, not the CEO, but the administrative assistant. And so it has been very much of a helper role rather than the central role. And layer on that, this idea that if you're a woman, you're afraid of math, which is, patently silly, but it is so ingrained that I have clients that sit down and say, oh, I can't do math. And I watch them doing math. They're fine. But it is so ingrained. And Elaine, I exactly agree with you that the more traditional female occupations, they're paid very, very little. Society doesn't value them enough to pay them adequately.
In your field, as you gave financial advice, do you ever venture into also giving career advice? I mean, we speak about how to ask for a higher salary, how to maybe even jump from one employer to the other, but also do you comment on fields of different careers, maybe something that could be pay better?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm not a career counselor, but as part of our comprehensive planning, I often talk to particularly women about their skill set and how that could be applied in a different way. Or what if they took a couple courses in this area that would enhance their skill set? And we have some wonderful career counselors in Columbus, Ohio, that I'm able to refer them then to for further advice. But, the number one way to enhance your financial security is to earn more.
Right. I completely agree with that. There is also the subject of education. I think in the 40s, only 4% of women had a college degree. Now, women are beginning to have more college degrees than men, which is something that I feel so happy about because, and I think demographically, the situation will change. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 50 years from now, 20, who knows, but it will come the day, and I think we're getting there, where women will be either equal or superior to men. In fact, many countries in the Nordic countries now, they're having more female prime ministers or head of states than men, which is a testament to the change of tide in demographics.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, go ahead, Peggy.
I just want to say that politics had been long an avenue for women, not to the degree that it seems to be today, but traditionally the housewife would get into politics as a sideline to raising the family, and that was considered perfectly appropriate. Some of these jobs were volunteer or they might be paying, but they were something that they could do from home. So it was there was always a little more opportunity for women in politics traditionally than there had been for women, say, in corporate roles or professions such as the sciences.
Okay. So now we spoke about education. How about one thing that I like about how to earn more is entrepreneurship. And this is a field where both men and women could do more of, but I see a lot less women into the field of entrepreneurship, creating your own job and creating your own salary than men. Is there any way that psychologically women could be more either daring or risk loving or whatever the word would be, to project them into this field of entrepreneurship?
Yes, I absolutely agree. I think it's a wonderful thing to, hey, Margaret and I are our own bosses, and it's as are you, and it is a wonderful way to have a career and build wealth. I think part of it are the role models. What do they say? If you can see it, you can be it. And if we had more successful women entrepreneur role models, I think that would be very helpful. I think that, in the educational level, they could teach entrepreneurial skills and to a broader group of students. Don't exclude women from this, and equip them with the tools and the skills that they would need to become entrepreneurs. But again, I think, some women who have an idea of, I would love to do this, the whole business part, that part of them it's scary to them. So we need to give them the confidence and the tools.
I will also say that it really helps women themselves to be a little creative. Now, this is not a brand new idea. It has been discussed, but to the extent that women can come up with suggestions and pursue ideas, show how something works, really gives them a visibility and added credentials when it comes to asking for a raise, seeking a promotion, even proposing a whole new section or new product or something that today I think having initiative will go a little further than maybe it had in the past. And I also think, in academia, you always hear about traditionally the underling would come up with great papers or ideas, and the senior professor would steal them or something. I think you can't really get away with that sort of thing so much anymore. So that is helpful. So generally the idea of contribute with new ideas, fresh ideas.
Okay, in the topic of promotions or salary increases, this is something that I have heard, including my ex-wife, that she will say, my work will speak for itself. And I will get I don't know, salary increase when the time comes. While on the other hand, men cannot stop bragging about themselves, how great they're doing, how much money they make for the company. They would not shut up, and they will not stop asking for those salary increases. So, I mean, this is another thing that creates that salary wage gap. Is just that men just brag about themselves and they nag and nag until they get that salary increase, and women they expect their bosses to see and valorize their work, which sometimes doesn't happen. I wonder if you had any comments about how could we, I don't know, fix that or improve those odds of a woman getting a better salary increase for her work.
Yeah, that's so true, that the work should speak for itself, but that's not the way it works. And ideally, women would find mentors who could, blow their horn for them, because we are often uncomfortable doing that on ourselves. And that is certainly one path. But I do also think it's just it's training, it's examples, it's again, showing them how to do it. And going down that path, it's difficult though, because I think it's a two-way street. The boss doesn't always want to hear from the woman how great they've been. They're used to hearing it from men, but when a woman does it, it can often seem unseemly. Why are you blowing your own horn? They're just not used to hearing that. So I think it's going to be a gradual change. I don't think there's a button we can flick, but more mentoring and just practice, women getting together and doing role modeling and practice sessions of how would you do this. Give them the tools.
I want to add to that. I agree with all of that. Social media has begun to really make a change in this. If you look through postings on whatever social media channel you're following, it's loaded with women, and they are talking themselves up and posting their picture or or talking about their new product or their achievement, and they're doing it on social media, and they're being encouraged to do it on social media. To the extent that they do it, this helps them in life. This translates into other aspects of their life, including their behaviors and their activities at work. So I think that social media, whatever you think of it, it really has made a difference in terms of women speaking up for themselves.
Right. I started a section on my blog called Self-Made Woman Billionaire. And every time one of those comes in the first 500, I'm just highlighting them, like Rihanna, or this the one who started Bumble, the dating app, or any of them, celebrating them and showing that they are role models for the other girls who may have financial ambition, and that they would like to see that other women have done it, and if other women have done it, they can do it as well. Okay, but now, Gio, I have a question in regards to the stock market. I think one of the best way to create wealth is to be invested in the stock market. And I don't know, maybe it's my impression, but I feel like more men than women are interested also in the stocks, or did I buy, I don't know, Tesla or Bitcoin or whatever it is. But I go to cocktail parties often, and it seems like men gravitate towards this kind of conversation, while women talk about, everything else in life. Maybe, there are some women in our cocktail conversations, but not, the demographics are just mostly men.
I have to tell
Yeah.
you, I'm sorry, I have to tell you, if you bring it up though with a group of women, they are interested. They'll ask a lot of questions if they don't know what you're talking about, and you can present it in a way that they can grasp in terms of. So it's not that they don't want to engage in those conversations, but that it seems socially acceptable to bring up things that are perceived as women topics. However, as I just said, if you do bring up money, personal finance, then they will be receptive to it.
Right. Okay. Gio, you have a.
Yes, it's interesting. My experience with my clients is women are interested in the stock market, but not just to talk about the latest hot stock. It's more of, what can the stock market do for me?
Right.
How can it build financial security for me? And so, and frankly, the studies have shown that when women do invest, they do a better job than men, because they're less likely to jump from hot stock to hot stock, and hot tip to hot tip. They tend to do quite a bit of reading before they jump in. And then once they jump in, they kind of leave it alone and let it go its course, which some benign neglect on a portfolio is not a bad thing once you've got it in place. And so it's very interesting. Once they realize that they can do this, it builds the confidence, and it's actually a better way to invest.
Right. Okay, and now the last topic, and this is where women need the most help, is that they live longer than men. And if I'm going to die, plus as a man, I'm going to die for age 70, a woman may live unto 80, 85, 90, and they need to plan for a longer stretch of life, which makes it a challenge.
Absolutely. And I would highlight two areas where we could really use some reform to help single women with this longevity issue. One is Social Security. Studies have shown that about 90% of retired single women depend on Social Security for more than half of their income. And if you have been married, and even if you didn't work a day in your life, you are still entitled to Social Security on a spouse or ex-spouse's benefits. If you've never been married, you only have Social Security if you built it yourself. And some women take time out to care for an elderly parent, kind of a checkered work history that hurts their Social Security record. So I think getting maybe some credit, Social Security credit, when you take time off to care for somebody, maybe some extra benefits for single people who cannot, depend on a spouse to build up a Social Security record. That's one area. The other area is skilled nursing, and any kind of care later in life is so incredibly expensive and so out of reach for many. There have been reforms suggested for Medicaid, but I would like to see maybe Medicare take up some of this, or some subsidies involved so that women could afford to pay for their own care when they become older.
Yeah. Another thing that I saw now during COVID time and the pandemic is that women ended up being the one who quit their jobs in order to take care of their kids or their parents or whatever, while the men still working, which, in the nuclear family sense, maybe it makes sense, but not for their careers, in regards to Social Security or advancement in their careers.
Yeah, so what happens when a single woman quits her job? There's no second income to fill in. So in the Build Back Better provisions, for example, paid family leave is huge for single women, because then they are able to take some time off maybe and to care for a loved one and still get paid.
Single women, this issue of not actually being able to quit your job is a fundamental problem that is not being addressed by the current legislation, society in general, that it is perceived that we're all just a dual income family. And when you read these articles about, women have left their jobs in droves, they don't seem to emphasize that this is not the single women, the 66 million single women. Some of them probably could, but by and large, who is going to support them if they don't go to work? And many of them have families to support on their solo income.
Right.
That is a critical problem that I wish society could come to grips with.
Well, we are arriving to the end of the interview. I would like to ask each one of you to give the single woman out there one tip on how to live well on your income. Jill, one tip for the single woman out there, other than finding a husband.
Yes, other than finding a husband. I would say, educate yourself. Taking a hold of your personal finances is not out of your reach. If you learn something about it, you make a checklist, read books, take a class, talk to other women, and don't be afraid of trying to take a hold of your own personal finances. It can be done. You can do it.
Right.
And if I may say, one thing we really saw a lot in interviewing people for our book, Single Women and Money, is that budgeting is a very crucial component, but it is a bit tricky for all women, for all people. For single women, I would say, when you're budgeting, take into account what really matters to you and prioritize that. And you can leave out, if you want, some things. The reason that you really have to think about what matters to you and what you need very intently is because there can be a chance of feeling deprived. As we mentioned, that single women are behind financially when it comes to, say, dual earning couples. So to avoid feeling deprived, you want to be sure you're funding the things that really matter to you and are conscious about it so that you do feel gratified about what you're spending on and can feel happy about it.
Wow. Well, the last question, Jill, could you mention one last time the title of the book and maybe where can you have you are an advisor? Can you tell us where people can follow the work that you do? And then after that, Margaret, you tell us where can the listeners follow you as well?
Okay, great. Yes, the book is Single Women and Money, How to Live Well on Your Income, available at all booksellers. And we also have a website that will launch next week that is singlewomenandmoney.com. And that's probably the best way to follow our work.
Fantastic. And I will put the links on the show notes. And Margaret, where can the listener follow all the journalism that you do?
I'm on LinkedIn on Margaret Price, and my Twitter handle is @PriceNealon. Nealon is Nealon. And I'd love to hear from, we'd both love to hear from your viewers, your listeners.
You and Margaret, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you, Elaine.